Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a very nice lunch break, and a special welcome again to everyone who's joining us online. The next featured session is hosted by the Korea Green Growth Trust Fund, which is a collaboration between the Korean government and the World Bank. And our next panel is all about sustainable development in action. Specifically, we will look at clean energy, urban resilience, and climate adaptation. The session will be moderated by Hyun-gun Wang, who is the program manager at the Korea Green Growth Trust Fund at the World Bank. And I would like to hand over immediately the floor to him. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our session on SDGs Reboot, Insight from Global Green Growth Project by World Bank. I'm Hyun-gun Wang, as introduced, the program manager of the World Bank's Korea Green Growth Trust Fund. And also I'll be your moderator today. The World Bank plays a pivotal role in global efforts toward sustainable development and poverty alleviation. The World Bank is instrumental in providing financial resources, policy advice, and technical assistance to the developing countries around the world. In 2023 only, the total IBLD and IDA commitment surpassed $92 billion. This significant investment demonstrates World Bank's dedication to advancing the Sustainable Development Goals through diverse projects in infrastructure, health, education, and others around the world. Next, I'd like to shed light on the Korea Green Growth Trust Fund at the World Bank, a partnership between the World Bank and the Republic of Korea. Since its inception in 2012, the KGTF has been the forefront of supporting developing countries with innovative and sustainable solutions, strategies, and investment aiming green, resilient, and inclusive development. We are honored here to have Incheol Wang, Junoo Shrestha, Stamatis Kotujas with us to share their expertise on Green Growth Project, their impact on SDGs, and challenges faced, innovations developed, and visions for the future. Let us move on to the opening presentations from our esteemed speakers. Our first speaker is Incheol Wang. He is the Senior Energy Specialist at the World Bank, focused on energy efficiency and renewable energy projects in East Asia and the Pacific Island. He brings extensive experience in energy policy from his work in Korea and internationally. Mr. Hwang holds a master's degree in energy and earth resources from the University of Texas at Austin. Incheol, we have 7 minutes to opening presentations. Over to you.
Thank you, Sean. Today, I want to talk about the road to sustainable energy. You can see the photo in front of you. This picture was taken during my mission to Mindanao, Philippines. And I was supposed to visit a village, a remote village in Mindanao, but there was a heavy rain, there was a small landslide, and the road was muddy and kind of a little bit blocked, and it was steep. So the team recommended me to just drop the visit, but I request to come up with some solution. And the local team came up with the solution. You can see the big truck. There's a construction truck, and with that truck, we were successful to cross the road and cross the stream and got to the field. So it was very meaningful and successful mission. Like this, there is always obstacles and challenges on the way to reaching some goal, reaching sustainable development goal, but we can overcome those obstacles. I want to talk about two cases, one in Mongolia, the other one in Philippines. For Mongolia, it is a clean heating project. The project is Ulaanbaatar Clean Air Project. We call it UBCAP. And through this project, the World Bank provided 40,800 13 clean stoves to low-income ghetto area in Ulaanbaatar. The most challenging development issues are happening in this ghetto area of Ulaanbaatar. It is a surrounding area of the Ulaanbaatar central area. It is located in the hillside. And during wintertime, those households in ghetto area just burn the coal. And it caused a lot of air pollution issues. And that made Ulaanbaatar as the most polluted capital city in the world during wintertime. So this project was done to help Mongolia to overcome those challenges. And through this project, the bank team contributed to the achievement of SDG 3, health and well-being, and SDG 4, quality education, and SDG 4, gender equality, and SDG 13, climate action, and SDG 7, the affordable, reliable, and sustainable energy. It's the next case in Philippines. So this is, the project is Philippine Access to Sustainable Energy Project. So this is a clean power project. Through this project, the bank, World Bank, installed 40,500 solar home systems to the remote off-grid households in Mindanao, Philippines. You might know this area, Mindanao. There is a Muslim area in Mindanao, and those Muslim area is a little bit left behind, especially in energy access. So overall, the Philippines reached almost 100% electrification, but Mindanao, the electrification rate is 80%, and for Muslim area, it is 40%, very low. So we provide solar home system to those vulnerable households in Mindanao. So this project contributed to SDG 4, 13, and 7. So this is my idea on the key challenges to achieve SDG goals. So I think the key challenges in implementing the World Bank projects and other development programs. The challenges are the lack of experience and lack of confidence in the success in the sustainable development. So the difference between the advanced countries and developing countries is the lack of success experience. So that's why they are a little bit afraid of doing some innovative things, doing some expensive things. So especially on the energy transition, to the road to the energy transition, some clients push back to energy transition because they think it costs too much money and it's too complicated. They are all advanced technologies. We don't have those technologies. We don't have capacity to implement the policies. So they want to stay in the safety zone of fossil fuels. That's the fossil fuels. They are the safety zone to them, and that's the known world to them. So what the development partners can do to the clients is to nudge them from their red zone of unknown world to the green zone of known world. So that to do that, we can expose those developing countries to some success cases and some very easily understandable solutions through some pilot projects or knowledge exchanges. And those experiences will lead them to confidence in their road to sustainable energy and sustainable development. So I thought about the future directions of sustainable energy. So as you might know, there are big obstacles ahead to the sustainable development and sustainable energy. There are political polarization around the world, and there are wars, and those wars and polarization is leading to supply chain disruptions. So what should we do about these obstacles? So I think there are no silver bullets to get rid of those uncontrollables. Those things are uncontrollable things. So what we can do is just, we can do small things. So we can create some silver lining through our existing partnerships and through our knowledge. So the World Bank has knowledge, global knowledge, and also we have global computing power. So to my experience, this World Bank's global knowledge and computing power has been very useful to invite the clients and to let them know what's happening in other countries. So these are the photos of pilots happening in small developing countries. The first one is battery storage in Palau. The second one is the EV chargers and EV in Marshall Islands. And the last one is wind farm in Jeju. So those projects are very small, but they were successful. So this small success made them have confidence in those innovative solutions or those sustainable energy projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Incheol. You just keep the time on time. Thank you. I have one follow-up question to Incheol. Your slide showed the knowledge exchange visit of your client from the Mongolia and then Philippines to Korea. And then my question is, what were the common interests of your client? They want to bring back Korean best practice back to their country. And how were these transfers of knowledge are arranged? More importantly, what additional measures are needed to ensure the proper knowledge exchange, also empowerment of your client? Over to you.
Thank you. So I want to talk about the Mongolia case. So we invited the Mongolian clans and had a building energy efficiency workshop in Korea some years ago. And through that workshop, the Mongolian clans, especially the Ulaanbaatar city government officials, learned about the cases of building energy efficiency in Korea. And also they visited the Korea district heating companies. So they showed their interest in the installation technology, the high efficient windows and insulation materials, because Mongolia needs those high efficient installation technology and products. So they want to know how Korea was successful in deploying those products and those efficient houses. And during that workshop, the Korean government and agencies shared their experience, how to implement it, how they implemented the policies, especially the building energy efficiency regulations. So the key was that the combination of the sticks and carrots. So there should be a strong regulation, and also there should be some incentives. And about the regulation, the Korean government linked the approval. There's a regulation called Building Energy Efficiency Standard, and the constructors need to submit their energy efficiency plan together with the building permit. So if the new building, the design is not passed the building energy efficiency standards, the building permit is not issued. That's the key of the Korea's success in improving building energy efficiency. They showed those kinds of success story, how to implement the building energy efficiency.
Thank you, Inchel. Basically, the proper government regulations and also incentives just to be aligned to make this happen. Thank you. So let's move to our next speaker, Juno Shiresta. She is a senior environmental specialist at the World Bank, specializing in the climate change, pollution, and landscape management in the East Asia and the Pacific region. She is committed to advancing sustainable development and hold a PhD in environmental engineering and water resources from Princeton University. Juno, you have 7 minutes. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Wang. First of all, thank you to Yonsei University and audience here for the opportunity to present our work at the World Bank in the practice group, like we say, environment, natural resources, and blue economy. Inchel went into sort of the systematic sort of description of energy and pilot and projects. I'll attempt to provide you with a bird's eye view of what environment GP global practice does and how it relates to the SDG. Next, please. Oh, I have to do it. Sorry, I'm used to saying that, sorry. So we're in environment global practice, and is directly responsible to leverage ecosystem services and environment for the benefit of our client countries. How do we do that is with technical expertise, providing technical assistance to our client countries, developing countries around the world, where we bring in analytics, identify issues, and then we have, like Inchel was saying as well, convening power of different partners, institutions to develop and design solutions. And then leading up to investments on the ground to resolve, to address the issue that we have identified or the client needs support on. Overall, these solutions we're targeting towards developing countries to manage their key resources, land, oceans, fresh water, so that the countries can develop in a sustainable manner without exploiting these resources. And in return, also create jobs, improve livelihoods, and enhance ecosystem services. Our key business lines, as stated there, and we work on, are forests, watersheds, sustainable landscapes, blue economy, fisheries and coastal ecosystems, pollution management and circular economy, something I focus on personally, environmental economics to really provide understanding of value of ecosystems and their services so that decision makers are aware of how to incorporate them into national budgeting, planning, right? And environmental risk management, where work done within environment global practice influences all the GPs. URL, which is urban, and energy. So projects made by urban energy, impact they may have on ecosystem is assessed by environment so that it can be identified, minimized, and addressed. So they all, directly and indirectly respond to SDGs, all of them. And the ones that are highlighted have more direct correlation, but all in all, especially the developing countries, natural assets are their backbone of their economy. So there's a direct correlation there. So going into my area of work more on plastic and solid waste management, what we see is, especially in ASEAN, that's where I focus more, use of plastic has increased tremendously because of increase in population, middle class, but the capacity to manage the waste is not there. Infrastructure is limited. For example, Thailand only recycles 17.6% of recyclable material value, which is very, very minimal. So that means a lot is leaked into the environment, right? Countries like Malaysia has one of the highest per capita use of plastic, right? Something that we can reduce. This impacts not only the visual, how it looks bad and all that, that's in the news, but also the economy, especially in the case of tourism, aquaculture, fisheries, right? And health. The poorest communities, women work as informal waste pickers. They are exposed to toxins and waste and plastics burning. So that's health hazard. And we've seen a number of pictures about turtles being entangled in fishing gear and all that. Biodiversity is impacted severely by plastic waste. And all this work, all these issues, we are trying, World Bank as a whole, in coordination with other global practices, environment is trying to work on it to respond to these challenges. And this directly relates to SDG 11, sustainable cities, and also sustainable consumption and production. For example, target 11.6 directly states, including by paying attention to air quality and municipal and other waste management. Target 12.2 talks about sustainable management and efficient use of natural resources. 12.5, reduce waste generation through prevention, reduction, recycling, and reuse, and hopefully in that sort of order. So related to climate change, when we talk about waste, it also relates to climate change, one of the main topics we're talking about today, mitigation. It's easy to sort of forget that waste sector accounts for 20% of methane, which is most potent, one of the most potent GHG gas. And it's much more cost effective to focus on methane and reduce methane emissions from dump sites, landfills, than other more difficult, complex mitigation measures, right? In adaptation, something we are focusing on in a lot of countries where flooding is a risk. Waste clogs up drainage system. They don't have well-planned drainage system, increasing risk to vulnerable communities, to flooding. Similarly, flooding may create large quantities of household waste, increasing load to the waste management areas, so they cannot manage the waste that's there. In lots of countries have coastal dump sites, and it increases during the floods, creates pollution issues. All of these to be aware of and have mechanisms to respond to, and this is what our team works on. So when we try to do that, specifically in the region here and around, and we've seen that it's actually same in most of developing countries. Issues are not drastically different. Context may be slightly different, but issues are similar. What we see in solid and plastic waste management is policy and institutional capacity is very low. They may have very good policies. At least in most countries, we see basic policies. Some countries even have advanced, but implementation capacity is sorely missing. Same with infrastructure and technical capacity. Infrastructure, the facilities, recycling, sorting, all that is needed on the ground. Without that, policies, mandates cannot be met. Same, SDG mandates cannot be met, regardless of how much countries say we'll meet them, and we sign up for them. That's needed. Municipalities have the mandate to respond to solid waste management, but they are also the ones who have the least capacity and financing. So that's a gap. And most of all, the most basic data and information, how much waste, what kind of waste, to decide what to do for the 1, 2, and 3 is missing. So how do we support that? With, like we said in the beginning, with the technical capacity, technical expertise that the bank brings, the convening power that the bank has, and the investment. Those three combined in a systematic manner. The picture here shows an example of Philippines, very high level, where we've tried series of analytical work on solid waste management. What's missing in the policies? What are the gaps? What are the difficulties that the country is having in implementing really good policies they have? And then create a roadmap. How do we meet the data gaps? How do we meet the policy gaps? How do we sort of capacitate our municipalities along with what other partners are doing? Roadmap across the timeline that aligns with the government strategy, right? And then, like Inchel also mentioned, capacity building so that they are confident that they can do it. And bringing in partners like Korea and others to build, to have knowledge sharing, really targeted sort of lessons learned and sharing on complex policies and also in technical sort of design, leading to solutions on the ground. I have two examples there where it's being undertaken in the country, Metro Manila Flood Management Project and Sustainable Recovery DPL, Development Policy Lending. So again, these complex problems, complex solutions, obviously we cannot do it on our own, let alone the environment, global practice alone. Within World Bank itself, all the global practices work together. Urban, energy, they work together. And with the client face, government, we bring in private sector partners, especially in waste that are important. Also different bilaterals like Korea itself, and the expertise that they bring and knowledge that they bring so that we are not working in silo. So that's where we stop. That's where I'll stop for my presentation. Yeah, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Juno. Excellent. Thank you so much. Similar to Inchel, also you highlighted the importance of policy, capacity building, also knowledge transfer. Excellent. Thank you. I have one quick follow-up question. In the solid and then plastic waste management, it's a really critical issue in many countries. And I just want to know, whether there's any opportunity private sector to involve in this solid and then plastic waste management to provide funding and then for the investment. And also, is there any lessons we can learn from Korea in terms of involving private sector to addressing the waste management issues? Over to you.
Thank you, Hyung. Especially, I think private sector in every sector we've talked about in general has a huge role to play, and we keep on saying that, right? And we see in waste sector, they're already very prominent. They're just not, I'm talking mostly about developing countries, right? But they're not most efficient or optimized. They have a role to play, they're already playing a role, but can it be maximized is also an issue. And private sector cannot, what we see is private sector cannot be optimized on its own. Regardless how much we say, as long as there's profit, they'll do, but public sector has a role to make sure that there's room for private sector to come in and maximize their profit in doing the good things, making sure that it relates to sustainable. They're probably not going to do SDGs just because there's a mandate. They're going to do it because there is a reason to, and there's profitability attached to it, right? And how do we make that happen? And government policies are important to do that. One example I can provide is very complex policy in the Philippines, EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility, where private sector that produces waste is made responsible for waste management. So that policy has taken place. That makes private sector much more aware and pushes them to minimize their waste. And if they create waste, that they have to put it in their budget, how to recover, otherwise there's penalty. So that's one, and I will bring in Korea in that example itself. Korea has a very strong EPR policy, and it's been running for past 20 years. So there's direct learning. It may not be exactly same that will be implemented or can be implemented in the Philippines, but there are lessons to be learned on what are the key elements, what are the key factors like governance factors, financial factors that need to be looked into. And the World Bank worked with both Korea and Philippines to do that. So other point I want to bring in is just the informal sector, the smaller sectors, where private sector has a role to play, where they're given some sort of contract and government incentivizes them so that even if they're not fully formalized, they are brought into the system and their contributions to data and information on waste is available for better decision-making right now because they're so out of system. Their impacts on them or how much of a big role they play in waste management is not considered. And it's difficult for compare with countries like Korea because we don't have that issue here, but something to be very aware and contextualize. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Also, the importance of the right incentive mechanism to bring private sector, but also they need to be able correctly to avoid any external issues. Thank you so much. Last but not least, we have next speaker, is Stamatis Koutsougias. He is a senior land administration specialist with a rich background in the designing project to strengthening land tenure right and policy guidance across diverse regions. He is currently leading a regional initiative on property valuation and taxation in ASEAN. Stamatis holds a master's degree in the international development and economics from Johns Hopkins University. Stamatis, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Hyung. It's great to be this afternoon here with you. My objective today is to really convince you that land is all around. It's around in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, in enabling green growth. And as this is a global engagement and empowerment forum, I wanted to engage with these ideas and understand how empowering land tenure and administration is for individuals and communities. I will start by mentioning that this presentation will probably have a couple of parts. One, exploring the connections between land tenure and responsible land governance with climate change mitigation and adaptation. We'll talk about the importance of land use planning. The connection there will be between green growth and SDGs, and end with some of the work that we're doing, particularly with subnational governments in the region. Our expertise is basically on two big key areas. One is on ensuring tenure security and recognizing tenure security. Land is arguably the most important asset for the poor and marginalized, both in urban and rural areas. And we also bring expertise in geospatial and land information and its use for effective and sustainable development. On the mitigation relation of land, the economic theory as well as evidence shows that with secure land rights, you incentivize good land use that can be guided and monitored. That improves natural resource management and can also help with verification of carbon emissions and other related mitigation goals. On the adaptation side, it creates the basis for resilient communities by improving the landscape regulations where communities can be based, and likewise allows for the simulation of climate change risks and other disaster risk planning functions. On the mitigation side, a very important work of what we do is helping secure indigenous peoples and local communities' land rights. IPs, indigenous peoples, manage at least 25% of global land mass, but recognizing the rights has been very slow. So a lot of the investment programs that are based particularly in other regions, not so much in East Asia Pacific, focus on recognizing the rights of indigenous peoples, on land, enhance the governance and control of that land, for responsible use, incentivizing long-term investments, that is community-driven development, and reducing concession of large-scale agricultural or agroforestry concessions. On the adaptation side, recognizing, registering and digitizing property rights is absolutely key, as most landholders within secure tenure are usually most exposed to climate disasters and most sensitive to those disasters, and they have very low adaptive capacity against climate risks. It is estimated that annually 19 to 25 million people are displaced due to climate disasters, and cumulatively by 2050, those displacements may reach 1 billion. The loss of human life and economic assets is huge. And so rebuilding is very important when people can return to the places where they were displaced. And so we work a lot in this context of post-disaster. Now, in particular, on the relationship with green growth, current land use planning systems are considered ineffective, fragmented among different institutions, and they do not leverage the potential for mitigation and adaptation benefits. A lot of the projects, both investment, financing, and technical assistance, promote integrated land use planning that allows for more balanced territorial development, which is a huge agenda even in advanced economies such as Korea. On the urban impacts, it allows for the supply of safe land for housing, avoiding urban dwellers being in areas of risk, as well as building resilient infrastructure and providing basic services. On the rural side, it's land allocation for mitigation, so the connections with indigenous peoples and local community rights, and improved natural resource management, but also on climate-smart agriculture and securing those rural livelihoods. Finally, and in relationship to SDG 11, and hopefully we'll get to talk a little bit about the connections of land with the different SDGs later, this is the SDG on sustainable cities and communities. We work with Korean partners across the East Asian Pacific region on smart and green cities, really aiming at the digitization, interconnectivity, and georeferencing of key information that is important for the delivery of urban services and the establishment of good infrastructure. And many innovations perhaps that we can focus during the discussion could be mentioned here. Thank you.
Thank you, Stamatis. You are just on time. Excellent. Thank you. I have one follow-up question, because I fully understand that land is the most important asset for everybody. Also, land is the Kenya security plays a pivotal role in the development across the world. And also, in your last slide, you mentioned about the smart cities. So my question is, what are the innovative approaches to securing land tenure at today's context? Specifically, how the digital innovations can support securing land tenures? And also, what will be the future of digital technology in the securing land tenure, also more inclusive development? Over to you.
Thank you very much. Before going to the digital part of the question, I think it's quite important to note that innovation can happen in ways that are not technological. And in securing land rights, this is even more so. Participatory land mapping, involving communities and individuals in strengthening and documenting their own land rights is very important. There is a lot of mistrust of land institutions, especially when there is weak land governance, enabling these participatory land mapping by legal reforms, by policy reforms, is very, very important. So that said, a lot of digital innovations are used in the land administration and urban fields. For example, the bank has promoted the use of pilots of blockchain for land registry that really allows the transparent and immutable transactions of land registries. So in these cases where you do have weak land governance and institutions, how can you use blockchain technology? When we do a lot of our work in any of the developing regions, we also use a lot of satellite imagery and remote sensing that can help us update parcel boundaries and do the work that before required a lot of financial resources and a lot of person power to go in the field and to cadastral surveying. In several of our projects, we actually use mobile applications, and that links to your question about inclusion. How can we actually make beneficiaries actual participants in the development process and understanding their land rights and building relationship with neighbors where, you know, there has been land conflicts and disputes, more amicable and conducive for everyone's development.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yeah, you correctly mentioned that digital technology is a really game changer. But definitely there's be other elements like the participatory mapping or community participation seems to be really key to moving forward the agenda. Excellent. Thank you so much, Stamatis. So let's move to the panel discussions. I will ask 3 critical questions to each panel and asking their response. So first question is about integration of green growth and SDGs. My question may go to Incheon first. The question is, considering the diverse range of projects highlighted in your presentation, how do you ensure these projects not only align with, but actually contribute to the multiple SDGs? Could you share specific examples where integrating green growth strategies led to tangible SDG advance? Over to you.
Thank you, Hyung. So to achieve the SDGs, in the beginning stage, the World Bank designed the project in a sustainable way. So let me take example of the Mongolia project, UBCAP Ulaanbaatar Clean Air Project. This project was designed to help the low-income group and females in area of Ulaanbaatar by providing clean heating appliances. So through this project, the project contributed to the SDG 3, health and well-being. The beneficiaries who got the clean stoves reported that their quality of heating and their comfort of living and working has been improved. 89% of beneficiaries responded in that positive response. And also, this project contributed to the SDG 4, quality education, because our target buildings were kindergartens and schools. So the World Bank provided a HEPA, high efficiency particulate air filters, to 1,500 kindergartens. So through these filters, the condition, the education condition in the school, the kindergartens, have been improved. So they the project ended up providing the quality education to the kindergarten students. And also, the project contributed to the SDG 5, gender equality, because the air pollution affect the health of mothers in the households, because they are the people who's in charge of stoves, cookings. And with the deployment of the clean stoves, the females got better health and environment. And also the 100 females got training on the clean heating options. And also this project contributed to the SDG 13, climate, through this project. In a total of 189,000 tons of carbon dioxide will be reduced over the period. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. You give very specific examples how one project can contribute to multiple SDGs. Excellent, thank you. My next question will go to Juno about challenges and innovation in green growth. Adaptation and resilience are key components of sustainable development. For your project experience, what are some of those most significant challenges faced when you implementing green growth project? And how have innovations or partnerships helped you overcome those challenges? Basically, more on the challenges and what will be the solutions to overcome those challenges. Over to you.
Thanks, Yang. For a problem like waste management, that's multi-tiered, right? We're looking at, let's say, SDG related to the cities, urban, and also related to resource efficiency, which ties basically down to environment in general. How do we put less burden on virgin natural resources so that we don't extract more? That's directly related to the 11 and 12 SDG. But when we try to map it into projects and countries specifically, like we said, there are technical challenges in terms of, like I mentioned, policy and institutions, infrastructure, financial, data and information. This we saw not only in the Philippines, but repeatedly in ASEAN and other countries as well. What we see is in this, you mentioned innovation, we can circumnavigate some of these issues with implementation of innovations. And I would like to echo what Stamatis was saying too. Innovation doesn't need to be very complex. It can be simple. Innovation in context of the country that you're working in. It's new to them, and it's implementable there. So challenges there, what we saw in terms of waste management was countries were not focusing on where the issue was. They're looking mostly downstream. They're looking more at the landfill issues. They're looking at burning, which is creating more of the leakage of waste, GHG emissions. We wanted to shift the solution upwards, more on recycling, more on sorting, and these solutions exist, for example, in Korea. They are very common here, they're taken for granted, but in other countries, these could be adopted, and they are new. And what we saw was for innovation to actually make an impact scale, again, policy plays a role. We saw that in countries like Korea, and there was a study tour done, exchange done between our client countries and Korea, where how do we build innovation in countries? How to overcome these challenges, right? Bypass these challenges with innovation. Create an ecosystem, capacity building supported by the government, where they are taught, technical capacity is built on how to do budgeting, how to advertise your product, how to do financials for small SMEs and MSMEs, right? So that their product, that's actually very good for impact on the ground, is known and bought, and partnerships, making partnerships with off-takers. We sort of saw that how Korea does it with consortium of different agencies, and other countries got to learn from it, and we're trying to replicate in a smaller scale in some of the ASEAN countries we're working in. So there are problems that exist. They can be resolved, or at least partially small steps through innovations, but for the larger issues like we're talking about, implementation support on policies, on a direct help with EPR, bilateral as we are doing is very helpful. Similarly, on investment to bring up scale, countries like Korea and others are bringing together pre-feasibility financing and all, supporting the bank overall larger investment so that there's scale not sort of spreading around of scarce resources. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you so much. So in summary, there'll be no silver bullet, basically. More comprehensive, inclusive engagement, building ecosystem, policy, regulation, and others. Next, I will go to the Stamatis. Before going there, I just have a short announcement. After Q&A with the Stamatis, I will open the floor. We'll ask questions from your audience. It will be great opportunity for you engage directly with the World Bank staff in the podium to ask questions or share your thoughts. So please prepare your questions, and Mike will be prepared somewhere. So be ready after Stamatis Q&A. So let's move to the Stamatis. So the last set of questions is about the future direction and partnership for green growth. Looking forward to the future, how do you envision the evolution of green growth initiatives in response to escalating climate crisis? And additionally, how the international partnership be enhanced to better support this effort, ensuring a more resilient and sustainable global community? Basically, the vision of green growth in coming years in addressing the global climate change issues. Over to you.
Thank you. I think that the answer to the future and the evolution of green growth strategies really lies to some of the challenges that also Junu talked about, right? And that the challenges have to do with institutional capacity in developing countries to carry out green growth strategies. It has to do with financing and finding the appropriate mechanisms to get resources to them, and then to have the absorptive capacity to manage and implement good projects. It will have to do the future of green growth strategies with making better policies and regulations. When we were in Egypt for the Korea Green Innovation Days, we heard that there are 7,000 pieces of legislation or regulation that relate to land tenure and management. So how can you have an integrated land use planning system that promotes green growth with so much fragmentation, right? And then, of course, the data and information gaps, and what is the role of technology? So the future of green growth will inevitably pass through making use of artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, to start piloting and understanding how these innovations can actually work. And I think we have more questions than we have answers at this time, but interdisciplinary teams such as this one here can actually come together and try to promote solutions working closely with our partners. And moving to the final bit of your question, which is about partnerships, it's really important to commend Korea for having a very active role in green growth through the KGGTF, through other institutions that are based in Korea, such as the Global Green Growth Institute, or hosting important organizations such as GCF, and also bilaterally doing a lot of work with many clients across the globe. But it's not only advanced countries and economies supporting the Global South, it's also what we can learn from the Global South. And I think South-South and peer learning between countries is also very important. I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Stamatis. So yeah, a lot of things to be done, interdisciplinary collaboration, South-South knowledge sharing, also best practice learning from other countries can be implemented, capacity building, financing, this most important element, definitely. Yes, thank you so much, Stamatis. As I mentioned, let's open the floor. Any questions from audience? Yeah, great, excellent. So can you give mic to the second row? So when you ask a question, just introduce yourself and then ask your questions. Thank you.
Hello, this is Cherin Lee, I'm an intern at KGTAP at the World Bank Group. First of all, thank you for the informative speech. I want to ask a question to Mr. Sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. Stamatis
Yes.
Kotosas. Sorry. So my question is, what are the key challenges and opportunities associated with integrating geospatial data with traditional land tenure systems, particularly in regions facing rapid urbanization and land use changes? Thank you.
Okay, Stamatis.
Thank you. The challenge is working with the very fragmented institutions. So to give you an example, we are working in a country in South Asia that has at least 25 land information systems. So there are 25 entities that have information about land, geospatial information, and there is no desire or enforcement of sharing this data. And I always joke in such meetings that, you know, sharing is caring, even for data, you know. The big challenge doesn't come with technology. Actually, in that country, you have very competent and people and also an ecosystem with IT that would enable the integrated use of this geospatial information. But it's more creating, you know, that political will and moving from silos that this is my data and this is my little kingdom and I'm not going to share it to do that. So, and once that happens, and it can start, you know, from small things, and once you start giving actually authority to say you're the authoritative source for what relates to this kind of data, then you make progress, and I think we have made progress there.
Thank you, Stamatis. Next question. Okay, yeah.
Hi, my name is Sayong Lee, and I'm also an intern from KGTF. First of all, thank you for your inspiring knowledge sharing. I have two questions. First one is to Mr. Inter. You were introducing the risk type of war or supply disorder, and you picked the global World Bank global knowledge as a solution for those type of risk management. And I was wondering how can global knowledge of World Bank can work as a solution for the risk management. And my second question is to Ms. Chunu. While you're introducing about the EMB business line, you also mentioned about environmental risk management. I was wondering what is the definition of the World Bank about environmental risk management, and what type of tactics do they use to reduce this type of risk things? Thank you.
Thank you asking questions. So Incheol and then Juno.
Yeah. So this current political polarization and the small grouping of the world is a big risk to the global downward cost curve of green energy technologies and products. Because, you know, globalization really helped to make this trend, the downward cost curve of solar panels and EVs and battery storage. But with this current polarization, it is in the risk of deglobalization, and this downward curve can be stalled. But we, the World Bank and other development partners, are kind of public entities. So we can do something with our global computing power and our global knowledge and our global financing. So we can design the sustainable energy projects and keep implementing those projects. And through this project, some green products, green energy technology will be employed, will be implemented in the client countries. So that will help keep the momentum of the global energy transition. I hope that this clarifies your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Juno, your answer will be the last of the our panel discussion.
Okay. Thanks for the question. On environmental risk management, it's a business line, entire business line within the environment global practice, right? So like I said, this influences all the other work that the World Bank does as well. Every project that goes for approval or in any client country has to go through environmental safeguards assessment, which is, does this project have negative impact on the environment, also on social and communities, right? Based on, it works under mitigation hierarchy where we try to minimize, first of all, no impact, no negative impact. If it cannot be avoided, minimal impact. If there is some impact, then how to manage and address it, right? So that is the mitigation hierarchy we work with. And in a way that each and every project through the bank, when it's on the ground, ecosystem services of all types, not just provisioning. There's cultural aspect to it, there's provisional, there's producing. So all those are assessed in a very systematic manner and what impact the project may have, right? And then what can we do? Similarly for social, I'm not a social expert, but who are the vulnerable communities, especially indigenous people who live around the area who may be impacted by this project? Is it even possible to do this project because the risk is so high? That is assessed. For example, some of the projects that we've been involved in, waste management, right? Where waste is burned in pyrolysis. We have to see in the pyrolysis that we're investing in, what is the emissions? Our dioxin, there's this category of chemicals. What are the emission rates? Do we have enough systems put in place in that facility that the emissions meet the standards of the country, air quality standards, right? So that's done, and we're always compliant with, or where the country systems are good, compliant with the country system. If it's not, we work at the level, we work to build capacity of risk management within the, beyond the country framework. For example, in the social case, people who are living on the floodplains, for the flood management project, if they have to be removed because there is risk, there's a project coming, their relocation plan, full relocation plan is a part of environmental safeguard framework. So there's an entire business line due diligence that happens for each and every project that goes through the bank process. Hope that answers.
Thank you so much. I think because of time, we need to complete today's session. My heartfelt thank you to all our speakers for your valuable contributions, also to the audience for joining today's important discussions. I hope today's session helped you understand what World Bank is doing to revamp the SDGs. Please join me in a round of applause to our panelists' exceptional contributions. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, dear panelists. It was really great to learn what the World Bank does to promote green growth. And you can see when it was a good panel discussion by the audience, by the many questions that were asked by the audience. And I want to pick up one thing that Ms. Juno Shrestha said about how we must work with the private sector because the private sector cannot optimize itself on its own. And we need them to motivate them to care for our environment, communities, and the most vulnerable. Which brings me to the next programmatic point. We will resume in about 15 minutes for our next session, which is about SDGs in action, with representatives from the private sector, from businesses, innovation, and entrepreneurship. So see you soon in 15 minutes.